Good morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're watching this.
Welcome back to the Dr. Joe Show. Welcome back to the Dr. Joe Show. I got Dan, my co-host, with me here today again. Thank you for tuning in. Today, we're going to talk about the real cause of obesity.
Everyone's favorite topic, obesity.
So, Dan, do you remember when some medical person was on television recently? I think she was on 60 Minutes or something. Do you remember what she said was the most common cause of obesity, or rather the main cause of obesity in America?
Genetics.
She said it was genetics. She's wrong. She's completely wrong, and this is why.
Dr. Joe's ready to go, guys. This is a classic. Buckle up.
So clinical experience, okay? Clinical experience will often reveal trickery. To say on national television that the cause of obesity is something that you don't have control of, what a perfect reason to get people on drugs. So there's two big reasons people are obese: upbringing and marriage. And I would...
Is that the short?
No, we're probably going to do that, kind of differently.
That's a great one. So upbringing and marriage.
Okay. So those are the two things. So, you see a family and you look at the parents, they're clearly obese. And then you look at the children, and maybe one of them has a normal body mass index or not. But usually going into middle school, a lot of those kids, you're going to see the weight appearing on them. And that's not genetics.
Sometimes younger.
I
told you about a 2-year-old from a friend, right, that I know.
The 2-year-old looks like a 10-year-old or something.
I mean, they're the size of someone 3 times their age.
Yeah. So what that is besides microbiome, okay, folks, if you don't know what microbiome is, it refers to the collective bacteria of your being. And there's variations on the microbiome which can impact your health. So when you're born into a family and the parents are obese, then you're going to get their microbiome, and then you're going to spend a greater percentage of your life obese usually. Mm-hmm. So, and actually, I could also say trauma is another major cause of obesity. So I would actually say upbringing and maybe trauma is a subset of that, and then marriage.
You know what? Maybe this is like the integrating factor. The dopamine hits. The inability to delay instant gratification for long-term benefit, which is, by the way, not just in food. We see this in every vertical of human existence currently. Instant entertainment, forego hard work for quick pleasure. I mean, so I think it relates to food in the sense of like fast food. Hey, quick dopamine spike, soda. It's been shown that hits the dopamine receptors, fast food, but then you could be obese and be malnutrition, like you said.
Yeah, so that's another important point, Dan. So you say malnutrition. The clinical definition of malnutrition, it's usually a patient who's severely anorexic, very low body mass index. But actually, folks, if the body mass index is 40, 50, and it's not from muscle mass, it's clearly from adipose, from fat, those people are actually malnourished. Because think about this. When you drink a soda, like if I take a regular soda, and I won't name names, but you look at the ingredients, and the number one ingredient is
high fructose corn syrup.
Exactly. So high fructose corn syrup. Basically, it's pure fructose. And if you know anything about the metabolism of fructose, its metabolism almost exactly resembles alcohol in terms of your liver. Just zooming out and looking at where does it end up. Because you take a sip of alcohol, within seconds, it's in your bloodstream. And usually by about 30 seconds, the fat is already forming in the liver just to detox it from the body. So a very similar...
Wow, so fat actually forms in the liver.
Yeah, it's called steatosis. So now you drink a soda. I believe fructose goes through GLUT5 transporter. So it just goes straight into the bloodstream. And because your body can't do much with it other than turn it into palmitate and store it as fat, that's pretty much what happens. But in the process of doing that, you lose all this reductive potential of NADH and NADPH. And for the biochemists out there, you know that NADPH and NADH, they basically fuel the cogs of your vitamin system. So you lose all of those electrons in that NADPH or NADH. Most of your vitamins just come to a screeching halt, and you can't really access the calories that are being accumulated on the body. So that's why these people drink soda. They think it's giving them energy. Well, there's caffeine in it. That's why they're getting a false energy. And it just gets stored as fat, and they just gain weight.
And the sugar high, no? You do get a sugar high.
And it gives you a sugar high. That's why there's fructose in fruit, because it's giving you a little bit of dopamine
you can see it in kids
to give you feedback that what you're eating is healthy and it's good. But then there's a point when you stop.
Yeah.
Because there are things that make you stop eating. Like if you're depleted in minerals and you throw a big mineral supplement down the hatch and you swallow it, you might notice it's going to shut down your appetite because your body's saying, whoa, this is something I need. Hold on, let me absorb all this. Don't put any other food in here.
So when it's absorbing it, scientifically, what is it doing? Like activating these NADPH cycles?
It's sending a signal that your body is getting something it needs. Because the way we've evolved with the food on our planet that comes off of a tree or comes out of the ground, or we bow hunt it or shoot it or fish it out of a body of water, we're getting complete nutrition. So the way I think we've and this is just my theory, the way we've adapted to fructose is it's usually a package deal with minerals, with fiber, with cofactors, with vitamins, all this stuff that when you get it, your body gets the stuff that it needs. You get a little bit of dopamine so that you come back for more, but not too much that you get hyper addicted to it. So then there's a point when you stop. With soda, you can just keep drinking it and drinking it and drinking it and drinking it because you keep wanting more. So you're not getting that package deal. You're just getting the dopamine hit, but there's no shutoff switch. Mm-hmm. So that's what complete nutrition is. Complete nutrition is the shutoff switch for your dopamine that you get from fructose. That's
complete nutrition. So is this like that feeling, let's say you go to a restaurant, you eat a big meal, right, and you're full, and then they start talking about dessert, and you're like, sure, why not? And all of a sudden, you could eat it still. Like, you can continue to eat the sweets even though you're full because it's sending signals somewhere else.
I think so. The modern restaurant scene, at least in the United States, for just typical average restaurants that don't really know anything about nutrition or culture, there's usually the appetizer. There might be super salad. There's the main course. Then there's dessert. And I think they took that from France, if I'm not mistaken. You know, they have the 5-course meals, but the portion size is very tiny,
European size,
very tiny. So you're giving yourself doses of nutrition, and besides the fact that the food over there is probably way better in terms of nutrition, you're getting a smaller portion. And I think the idea of putting sugar after your meal is that it activates cholecystokinin and secretin and all those signals that go to your biliary system to get your pancreas and your gallbladder to start squirting out stuff. Because when you're taking in the dessert, your dinner is in your small intestine. So then that signal from the fat and the sugar, which is usually what desserts are, it triggers the release of more bile so that it facilitates that digestion of the big dinner.
So that's why it feels like, hey, you can keep going.
That's the original intent.
Yeah.
But the problem in most of America is the portion size. Most of the time, if I've ever been to restaurants, I feel, well, I'll backtrack. If I go to most restaurants and I eat everything, I'm usually so full. The sound of dessert makes me sick just because of the stretch that's been put on my stomach.
Right.
And I usually
regret it. But let's say they talk you into it. No, Dr. Joe, it's a one-time thing. You'll eat it, and you'll be like, wow, I can keep going.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're famished and you had the whole day and you're actually starting to go into ketosis, maybe.
So you brought up, let's go back. So you said upbringing and marriage.
Yeah. Upbringing and marriage. And trauma branches off of that upbringing because, sexual trauma.
That's your childhood.
I think is top of the list.
That's all part of it.
For feeding into the obesity.
A lot of it's the comfort food and
the comfort food and the wish to make oneself undesirable so that they're not sexually abused again.
I see.
So there's all those. There's all the trauma stuff, but we don't need to spend a lot of time on that because I think a lot of people already talk about that. So why do I say marriage? Again, my clinical experience dictates this truth to me. And there may or may not be studies on this. Maybe there's already studies on it.
Probably are.
I didn't really care to look if there were studies or not because I know it's true. And this is, folks, this is where the art of medicine can be sufficient, and you don't need science. If you see enough people tell you the same thing, it's a phenomena that you see, okay? So why does marriage cause obesity? Because you have two people that were living separate lives, and now they are coming together as one under the same roof. Now their habits are going to be blended. And eating is actually a very intimate thing. Eating and sex, they're psychologically very, very similar. And some psychiatrists would argue that they're almost the same thing. And so that's why when you have a couple come together, you're being prompted to eat by the other person, and then the other person is being prompted to eat by the other. So your schedules are completely mixed up. And because they love each other, they're going to eat even though they're not hungry. So that's I think the phenomena that happens. And don't you think it would be nice if pastors, if officiants, if marriage counselors knew anything about nutrition? Well, they don't. They all fail miserably at this. This is part of the reason why America is so obese. And now Mexico's overtaken America in
I
obesity.
I saw that.
But so it's something that needs to be addressed, but it's not just the failings of the people bringing folks into marriage that's the problem. The problem is the FDA and the USDA. When they put sugar cereal next to the food pyramid or on the food pyramid, and they say it's okay, and when they allow poisonous food to be widely available, it's poisonous food. Fast food is useless.
I still love drinking beer socially.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big tequila mezcal guy too. The older I'm getting, the less fun the beer actually is. I usually get that crash after I drink even 2 beers. I'm like, oh man, was it really worth it? Not really. That's why I kind of tend to gravitate more towards tequila and stuff, because you're at least keeping it a little cleaner and you're not getting that same carb hit. But to the marriage thing,
it's the grains.
It's the grains. I think it's the grains. To the marriage thing, I think it's true for most couples. Like, you put on that newlywed pounds, you're in a happy state in your life. You're in the honeymoon phase, so you're probably going out to eat more. It adds up. The good thing is, and my wife and I went through this, we got 10 years in, we were like, hey, we gotta get back to where we used to be college wise when we met each other. We both gained weight. We went through keto together, and we were able to keep each other accountable during keto to where, hey, you're going to eat like this, I'm going to eat like this. We both dropped incredible weight during keto, to the point where I really believe our microbiomes changed permanently. because now I can't go back to those beers like I used to.
Yeah.
I'll have 2 of them now.
The thought of it doesn't sound good to you even, right?
Sometimes it does, but most of the time, no. Because it's that feeling afterwards, like that delayed gratification.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm old enough too to where it's like, is it really worth it? How I'm gonna feel 2 hours from now?
Right.
Usually the answer is no. Now, if I'm in a social setting, I'll probably still drink the beer, but at least I know 2-3 hours in, hey, this is what I get, for doing that.
Yeah.
But back in the day, before my microbiome changed due to the keto and all that, 12-pack, 24-pack didn't matter. Like, didn't really have much of an effect. I would get the hangover, but not the crash, not the feeling bad. Now I'll drink a beer, I'll feel bad a few hours later, like lethargic, sick.
But you're lifting, you're adhering to pretty healthy diet.
Yes.
And so I think this comes back to microbiome a little bit. Your microbiome is always seeking to protect itself.
Yeah.
And if you do something like going through keto, if you do intermittent fasting, you'll activate autophagy, where your body starts to gobble up the things that are not necessary. That's sort of the easy way to think about it. And it can be very painful for people.
Yeah.
And fasting, it makes you start to look at everything. Whoa.
I got into fasting because of my wife.
Kind of a thing, right? And then you break your fast with something healthy, and then you're reprogramming your microbiome.
The bone broth. My wife got me into all that. So when we talk about marriage, and we don't want the audience to think this is like negative for marriage, because there's a lot of benefits.
Well, yeah. So folks, just to be clear, I'm not bashing marriage. Marriage is a sacred, important institution. It's nothing against what marriage is supposed to stand for. It's just that we have allowed the food industry to sneak up on us, and management of the dangers of the food industry needs to be integrated into the counseling that pastors give young couples. Okay, even officiants.
And
they should, those people over in the courts, and I'll officiate your marriage. Okay, well you better have pamphlets or something about nutrition, something, and don't direct them to the American Diabetes Association, because you know where they get their money, Nestle. Okay, so you have a company that makes snacks that have soy lecithin and sugar, and that money is going into an organization that wants type 2 diabetics on insulin. So, we could also go down the list of what else contributes, like inappropriate insulin in type 2 diabetics. Like you have a person with an A1C of 8 or 9, and they're not on anything but metformin, right? So I'm the doctor seeing a patient. Their A1C is, let's say it's 9 or 10 or whatever. What should I do? Should I ask them what they're eating, or should I just say, well, it's so high, it's metformin's not working, let's go on insulin? This is how I was trained. Yeah. This is what all my attendings, at least when it came up, said. I'm like, lifestyle, but most of them are not going to change their lifestyle, so you got to put them on insulin. That's wrong. It's just wrong.
What's correct in your
You
opinion?
have to get them to change their lifestyle. And
but
if
then
they're
you become
married,
more psychologist than doctor.
That's true, because weight loss programs and just general addiction programs, that the management's almost the same.
It's hard to be a psychologist though, as an internal medicine doctor, when you only see your patients like every 3 months, every 6 months.
Yeah,
there's no accountability. They're like, okay, I'm not gonna see him till 6 months. Most people, they'll think, okay, if I'm gonna see Dr. Joe next in 6 months, the first 5 months I can just bullshit, and then that last month I'll do my best, so that hopefully.
Oh, that's the story. A lot of the times I've seen that a lot. I saw that in residency.
And those are the disciplined ones. There's other ones that say, oh, I can't, I'll just see him again, so what?
Well, that's why a food diary helps. But back to the every 3 to 6 months. That's why weight loss programs they produce a lot of accountability, because you're seeing those people once a month. That's the whole point. That's the most important thing, is the frequency.
Our weight loss studies that we do,
Mm-hmm.
we do placebo trials. Like, even the placebo people lose weight because they come in every week and they know they got to weigh in, and someone's giving them a pep talk.
Mm-hmm.
Katie might be telling them, why are you eating that? It happened last week. Patient came in with chips. She was like, why are you eating that?
Oh, perfect.
She said something like, isn't there a better option than that? And they're in the study.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I do think, like you're saying, it's
Yeah.
up. It boils down to you as the individual cannot rely on Dr. Joe to tell you what to do. You've got to rely on yourself to figure out, hey, this is not working. Our health system is horrible. I got to put it in my own power to do what I got to do to extend my life, live as long and healthy as possible, and all that. And if you're in a marriage, it's your job, if your spouse is not complying, to be that psychologist for them.
I actually recommend that couples come in together, man and wife, come in together.
That's true.
Tell me what's going on, because sometimes it's more one than the other. Like, sometimes the dude is the problem. Sometimes the lady is the problem. I mean, this isn't against one sex or the other. This is just marriage.
Yeah.
And if you don't know it's hard when you go into it, it's gonna be really bad.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the nutrition.
But what can people do? I mean, ultimately, this show is about empowering people.
So before you get married, okay, folks, if you're not married yet, okay, well, first you got to take a look in the mirror and ask yourself, do you need to lose weight? And if you need to lose weight, then you need to figure out why your weight is up and what you need to do about it. Once you do that, before you get married, you have to have a conversation with your significant other in advance. Hey, how do we prevent ourselves from getting fat? How do we do it? Well, you have to look at, what are your habits and what are your habits? And you have to reconcile those, and you have to make an agreement. Just like there's a marriage contract, you have to put that on the marriage contract. Mm-hmm. Make it part of the agreement. Make it sacred. Mm-hmm. And say, okay, I will not prompt you to eat. Mm-hmm. Okay, I will not prompt you to eat. Or we're going to try and line it up so that we're together. Or at least we'll sit down together. When one of us usually eats and the other one doesn't, we'll just have a glass of water, and we're not going to shove food down each other's throats.
Yeah.
Because once life gets going, you get stressed out and you start eating for the sake of stress, and that's when things start to get bad. But omega-6 fatty acids in excess are also going to make people gain a lot of weight and raise their triglycerides. So you have to.
And will also shrink your testicles.
And
if they didn't learn anything from the past.
Yeah. And estrogeneration, right?
Not sponsored by estrogeneration, but we would love it, Dr. J, if you sponsored our show.
Yeah, Dr. J, I know you said you were too busy. I thank you for writing me back, but really, you need to come on the show. Okay,
we would love to have you sponsor it, but if you can't, an interview would be great.
Yeah, it really would.
I was talking to a friend the other day about this industrial revolution, and this keeps coming up too in our. This book comes up every episode, but also another thing's been coming up is the last 100 years. All this stuff is new.
Yeah.
It used to be poor people. If you would go into any country just randomly, you can find poverty pockets based on how skinny people were. Mm-hmm. You can see their bones. These people are poor. Mm-hmm. Now, it's the opposite. You can go in any place and any poor community is going to be obese. It's because we're in an environment of excess and cheap excess. It's very expensive to eat healthy. It's very affordable to get a lot of calories and get full and get obese, but malnourished. That's the era we're in now.
That's a perception that I think is not always true, though, that eating healthy is more expensive. I don't think it has to be.
And you're trying to dispel that with the cooking, the yogurt, and all that.
Yeah, you can, the price you pay for decent milk, you transform it into yogurt right there. You have a meal, mm-hmm. at least at breakfast or whenever you want to have the yogurt, and the yogurt's going to really help your microbiome.
Yeah. But
getting
to like
used to eating an apple instead of eating a piece of bread.
Yeah.
You know, I
or
mean,
like a burger, like a 99-cent cheeseburger at your favorite fast food place.
Now there's another thing that sort of bleeds into this, and I don't know if it's a bell curve or maybe it's like a double peaked distribution, but you have activity level and you have age. So there's age, there's activity level. The people with high activity levels, really, really high on the far end, like the top 1% of activity level people, the people who are lifting like crazy, the super marathon runners, those are people with metabolism. They can tolerate a cheeseburger. They can tolerate a whole whatever meal from whatever place that smells good as you drive by and hijacks your cephalic phase and makes you turn right. Okay,
with a whole cake on top of it too.
Yeah, because they're burning the calories. I always think of like, oh, Michael Phelps. You know how many calories
like
he had? 12,000.
12,000 a day or
something
yeah,
crazy.
16 maybe.
Just for training
Yeah.
for the Olympics, and so those people can get away with that amount of, I guess, omega-6 fatty acids at times because, number one, they're not doing it all the time, and number two, their body's utilizing it. Because when you're exercising all the time, your anti-inflammatory signaling is actually a lot higher. So when you add in an extra omega-6, you're balancing it out a little bit. When people are sitting around sedentary, those people need to have much more keto diet. Those people need to have really careful tracking of their omega-3s. Make sure that ratio is balanced, because if your omega-6 is ratioed at 20-1 or like 70-1, like some people, it's not going to be good. Shout out to Dr. Berg there.
Love him.
Yeah.
He got my wife and I through some of those tough times of keto.
Oh,
his YouTube.
Yeah, Dr. Berg has, I mean, like, that guy's been around.
I think we get him
way,
on the show.
way
Dr.
longer
Berg,
than us.
when I lost like 50 pounds and my wife lost I don't know how many during those early days before COVID, when we were fasting and we were hungry, we wanted to cheat, my wife, shout out to her, would put on one of his YouTube videos and we would just watch it. And then he's reinforcing everything we're doing. So like, it's worth it. The suffering's a little bit more worth it. So thank you, Dr. Berg. I would love to get that guy.
Oh, he's awesome. I mean, he breaks down the biochemistry kind of like we do here.
He got us through that keto time.
Yeah.
And I think that permanently changed me and my wife.
Will you reprogram your body? That's what you do. So it's a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's really a lot of things. For some people, it's the portion size. You have to just start to cut down the portions. A handful of my patients, I don't always. Sometimes I fail to bring it up, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I cut my portions down. I ate some of the same things. I just cut the portions down," and then they see the results.
Yeah.
Very small percentage of people actually benefit from counting their calories. Most people, it drives them crazy, and they just give up and they don't want to do it anymore.
I think there's a large and maybe increasingly large, unfortunately, cohort of people who believe, hey, you know what? The FDA is going to protect me. If fast food was bad for you, it wouldn't be allowed. If beer was bad, it wouldn't be allowed, or at least they'd have like more warnings on it, like cigarettes. Like, imagine if fast food places were forced to put warnings like cigarettes.
Like,
and like
cigarette boxes. Yeah.
If you go to Europe, they have like tumors of people on the back of the box.
Pictures of tumors. Yeah.
If they did stuff like that, and who knows if that works or not, but if they did something like that on fast food, maybe people would think twice. Like, hey, this is just as dangerous as smoking if I eat fast food every day. That thought process hasn't caught up to like cigarettes. But I do believe like 50 years from now, because of Dr. Berg, because of people like you, Dr. J, getting the word out, I do think we're going to look back 50 years from now at fast food and say, wow, like, dude, people were eating like crap back then. Just like we do now 50 years ago, people were smoking on planes like nothing. I remember when I was like 3, we took a transatlantic flight. Everybody's smoking on the plane. You're sitting there as a kid and there's like a cloud of smoke. They're like, all right, this is normal.
Doctors used to smoke rounding in the hospital.
See?
I'll never forget. I went on a residency interview, and I won't say where it was. I don't want to tarnish names, but I got locked into this tiny room. It was like under a stairwell. It was the weirdest room, and there's a little table there, and here's this like balding attending with severe kyphosis, and he was just like he was just I don't know this, and he just had this horrible look on his face, and he reeked of cigarettes, and he was sitting in the room waiting for me. I came in there, and I was like, and he was totally not excited to talk to me about anything I was interested in, and I'm like, I'm not ranking this program. I don't care. I'm not ranking this.
And you look back at that, like, that's crazy, but back then it was like still accepted.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was just going outside to smoke because I think smoking in hospitals was outlawed, I think, a long time ago.
But you had doctors like that would still prescribe cigarettes. Remember?
They would prescribe cigarettes for schizophrenia, right?
Yeah.
Or for weight loss or something.
Yeah, for appetite suppressant.
Yeah.
You have doctors in their office drinking Diet Cokes today, eating fast food. Well, you know obese doctors.
Yeah.
I think we're going to look back 50 years from now and laugh just like you did now.
Yeah.
I think there's something that's going to change, but it's going to be a grassroots. It's going to be people taking personal responsibility and not relying on institutions to tell you this is okay. Yeah. Don't worry. If we discover fast food's bad for you, we'll ban it. I don't think that's coming.
I think
there's too much money here.
This is another important point, folks. There are a ton of health experts all over, and they're alternative, they're holistic, they're this, they're that, and they're saying, subscribe to my thing, pay for my thing, buy my book, pay for this, pay for this. Mm-hmm. And all of them don't completely agree on everything, and that's one of the biggest problems with the alternative health community right now. Mm-hmm. Well, because what I'm trying to do is reconcile. Well, functional medicine says no nuts are safe, okay? Mm-hmm. Good naturopath friend of mine says, well, hazelnuts are okay. And then another person said that only Brazilian nuts are okay. And then another one said...
Academia.
And then Nicola Pellion says, well, walnut oil is great. Who's correct? Mm-hmm. I don't know who's correct. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe I'll eat some walnuts every now and then, but I know nuts are really inflammatory, and they have oxalate in them. So so we also have to understand that this health information is often getting monetized. Mm-hmm. And this channel is not monetized yet, and even if it gets monetized in the future, I really don't want to add things to it that make it more monetized, because I'm doing this for my patients. I'm doing this because I only get 20 minutes with you folks at a time if I see you once a year, because you guys got to read Estrogeneration. You got to read aspartame
Well,
disease.
And if you don't read it, just watch Dr. Joe, because we'll summarize things.
Dr. Berg actually just brought up this book. Did I tell you about it? The Ancestral Diet Revolution or something. It's on Amazon. Dr. Charles somebody. Well, it breaks down everything about omegas and the right place to get omegas. So
you gotta check it out.
Yeah. So you have to build your library of sorts. But yeah, most common cause of weight gain is marriage.
And upbringing, no?
And upbringing. Yeah. And then there's trauma in there, and you could even lump in lack of education.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And it's never too late, I think.
No, it's not too late.
Correct.
Like, I don't want people to think that it's genetic, or that because they grew up overweight that they'll never lose their weight. It's just going to take a little more work to lose it. Because we weren't meant to be like this. We weren't meant to eat fast food. We weren't meant to consume high fructose corn syrup, maltodextrin, bread,
and these
French
are things,
fries.
By the way, we used fast food as an obvious example of, like, most people I think inherently know it's not good, but they still do it every day because, hey, it's not regulated, so it must not be that bad, right? Mm-hmm. But there's things like, you brought up nuts, you brought up bread, pasta. Like, these are foods that people debate, well, it's okay to have bread. Like it used to be the food pyramid. It's okay. You need bread and rice.
The food pyramid's completely wrong. The USDA's food pyramid has been wrong, and it's going to continue to be wrong.
But how can we blame people when like the authorities can't even give us like a good prescription because they've been compromised? So
yeah,
it boils down to self-responsibility. Like, understand no one's out there watching, even you.
Yeah,
don't trust what he said. Go look it up yourself.
Look it up yourself. I mean, Dr. Berg says you got to eat, I think what's it, like 70% of your calories need to be saturated fat. I'm not sure if that's correct. And the heart side of medicine, they're all like, "Ooh, saturated fat is so bad for you." You got to just try something and go with it. Because sometimes I see patients that are doing full keto. All their labs are immaculate on no drugs.
Yeah.
They're doing pure carnivore, pure keto, and they're doing great.
Yeah.
But keto, like I said, pure keto does not work if you're lifting and you're trying to maintain muscles because you do need carbs for that.
Yeah, you do need
You just
carbs.
don't need that much. So
I remember people telling me when I was doing keto, oh, man, they saw me lose weight, but they're like, oh, dude, you got to be careful. You might get a heart attack. And I'm like, well, it's not meant to be a permanent thing. It's meant to get my body back into balance so that I'm at a new baseline, and then I can start from there. But losing the weight's more important right now.
Weight, yeah. Abdominal girth is one of the most important. Visceral fat, and then abdominal fat. I think visceral fat's the worst, and then abdominal fat is the next worst.
Yeah.
You guys got to do everything you can to get rid of that.
I was on the path of insulin resistance. I was on the path of metabolic syndrome.
Yeah.
I was down that road.
Yeah. Snacking is one of the worst things that you can do also, by the way, folks. So if you go by Chinese medicine, the ancient Chinese ways that the people in the mountains did that was associated with longevity. You eat when the sun rises. You eat when the sun is highest. And you don't eat after that.
Makes sense.
Because I think I read in a book, they had this mythology that, well, the beings who eat in the evening, those are sort of dark entities that sort of possess people and do bad things. And so we don't eat because then we'll be closer to those entities. And lo and behold, when you eat too close to bedtime, you're digesting food while you sleep. Your sleep quality sucks.
Facts. Last night, man.
Facts don't care about your feelings, folks.
Last night, we got back from Mexico. My in-laws were in town. He's like, hey, I know we're not supposed to do this, but I really want a pizza because I'm going back to Phoenix. I was like, all right, let's go to the boys. Got a pizza and wings. It was 8 p.m.
8 p.m. I really want a pizza.
I'm paying the price for it today. I fasted all day until like 3 o'clock. I had like one of those Quest bars. I pay the price for it, man. We both knew we're not supposed to do it. We did it anyways. Pay the price. Got to fast 16, 17 hours the next day.
Had you lifted recently?
I lifted. I knew I was going to do that, so I lifted before.
So you at least utilized some of those calories.
I knew.
But most of them you didn't utilize probably.
No,
if you ate that much.
Of course not.
So you probably woke up and you didn't feel very good.
I didn't sleep well. I woke up, feel like shit. Bowel movements are off, TMI. And I know I'm your co-host, man. I know better. But there's people out there that don't know. Yeah. But there's people out there that do this every day that think there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, they get used to feeling like shit to where then a year into that, they're like, hey, something's wrong with me medically. I need a pill.
This is why docs who might be watching this is why you'll ask a patient if they have a symptom and they'll say they don't have any symptoms. It's because they've gotten used to how shitty they actually feel.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like the perfect example is heart failure. Heart failure can sneak up on people. So when you get somebody out of heart failure, when you detect it like subtly and clinically, and then you get them out of it, but they had no complaints before. But now you get them out of it, and they're like, oh, my gosh, I feel like a weight's been lifted. I don't know how I was going on and on like this. That happens.
Yeah.
So people will get numb to these feelings. You have to work on avoiding things that make you numb.
Yeah.
And one of those is dopamine hits. So you have to look at the dopamine in your life and start managing it and make whatever dopamine that is in your life, make it as sacred as possible.
That's a whole podcast on baseline dopamine and all. And my wife was trying to talk me out of it. Don't eat it. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Don't eat it. I was complaining all morning. I feel like shit.
Another reason marriage causes weight gain is having children. And again, this is not an argument against having children. It's just something to be aware of. There's children in the house. Maybe they're a few years old. Maybe they're 10. Maybe they're teenagers. They're growing. So maybe those kids are eating several times in the evening. Because,
machines.
Yeah, because they're growing. They have this sort of fountain of youth going on, and they can eat an hour before they go to bed, and they wake up just fine, and they can go to school the next day. Adults can't do that. But so then what do you do? Like this idea that, everybody's supposed to sit around at the dinner table at the end of the day. Sit down with your kids while they're eating. You don't need to eat with them.
Have a water.
Drink water.
Have a coffee.
Drink a Zevia.
Yerba mate.
Yerba mate, as long as you don't sweeten it. Yeah.
I want to do a whole podcast on yerba mate.
Yeah. I what is it? Type of green tea?
Yeah.
But it's
tea.
from Brazil.
It's a natural GLP-1. That's what's the interesting part to me.
So it has a GLP in it. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it increases leptin and cuts appetite.
But does it cause leptin insensitivity by increasing leptin?
I'm not sure. They have to do studies on that, but there is increased risk of esophageal cancer if you drink it hot. So I always drink it cold. I drink the cold yerba mate.
Interesting.
They sell at Costco yerba. It's 0 calories, no sucralose. You looked at the can already. You approved it.
Yes. Yeah. I cleared it.
It's good. It's interesting stuff.
Interesting.
There's always things you can do.
Uh-huh.
And it is a little more expensive to buy that 12-pack or Zevia versus a 12-pack of Coke. That's back to it is cheaper. I mean, it's unfair. If you are in a lower socioeconomic strata, the game is built, like you are meant to be the cash cow. The game is not built for you. Your job is to get out of that strata. Yeah. First, your job is to take off the blindfolds and look at what's going around. Yeah. Like, why are majority of fast foods in bad neighborhoods and the majority of good health food stores in good neighborhoods? Yeah. We can just end it on that because the game is not built in your favor. No. That's what I meant by it's easier and cheaper to eat bad than good. And you're trying to dispel that, and there are things you can do. But how many people, especially, let's get into single parenthood, like as teaser maybe for another one.
Single parents.
Single mom, working 3 jobs. She's not going to have time to make her own yogurt, man. She's going to go to Jack in the Box.
No. Well, you have to integrate it into your life. You have to integrate it into your routine, and you have to be accountable to the times that you're in your house. Folks, watch the yogurt video.
The yogurt
24 minutes, and it spanned just 2 separate days that we shot it.
We're going to do other special ones like sea moss.
Yeah, there's going to be a sea moss one that's coming up. Oh, you mentioned sucralose. I want to tell just one quick little clinical story. The patient gave me the okay for this. So I'll say a middle-aged dude. He had perineal pain. You know the perineum. Yeah. Folks, the perineum on a dude, it's between the scrotum and the anus. Okay? It's that area that's like in between there.
That's the perfect short right
Horrible pain. He has no idea why. He was told that he had prostatitis. They gave him antibiotics even though they did not do any analysis to prove that he had the prostatitis. But he got the antibiotics for 4 weeks.
Because that's the knee-jerk reaction. Hey, pill.
Oh, yeah.
Here's a pill, Flomax.
Yeah.
You're good.
So then he comes in to see me, and what did I do? I took his history. I took his consumption of artificial sweetener history. 5 to 7 hits of sucralose a day. And I told him, my friend, you have to stop this now. You have to stop this yesterday. And I told him, I mean, it might take 2 weeks for your symptoms to totally go away. 2 days. 2 days, all of his symptoms vanished.
Middle-aged?
Middle-aged guy.
Like our age or?
Around our age, yeah. A little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
So that there's a perfect sucralose story. Sucralose is toxic, folks. If you're not getting toxicity from it, then it's just having subtle toxicity on your body, but it's bad for you.
And
but what's worse is aspartame.
Worse. Huh? They make obesity worse also.
It makes obesity worse, too.
Talked about that, too. Yeah. Man, there's so much more we got to do on this show. We're just getting started on Dr. Joe's show, so thank you for liking and subscribing, and everybody go connect. let us know what you think in the comments. You want to take us out?
Folks, thank you for tuning in. Please comment, like, subscribe, share if you feel like it. See you next time.